on mute for the session. Just a few more. Okay, everyone, we'll make a start now, and I'll let some more people come in if they join. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. It's lovely to see so many of you. The presentation that we're going to share has been created by the teachers in Year 2, and it's something that we felt that you would really benefit from, and we really want to help the children with their writing this year. So we put it together and we really hope you enjoy it. As I've mentioned before, if we could all just keep our microphones on mute for the session. We'll have an opportunity at the end of the session to ask any questions. We'll try our best to answer the questions as we go through the slides, but if we don't, we'll have an opportunity to for you to ask and use the chat function. This Zoom will be recorded. And the recording will be shared with you after. So if you want to go back and watch it again, or if you want to share it with any of our fellow parents, feel free to do so. And we will share all the resources with you afterwards as well. So the aim of the session is to provide information about how writing is taught and developed in Year 2. Year 2 is a real prime area for children to develop their writing. We know that we've got the foundations that they're being taught in Year 1 and FS, but Year 2 is the year where we really build on those foundations and start to see progress. I'm sure you've already seen a lot of progress in children's writing since being in Year 2, and the aim of this session is kind of to show you what you will be expected to see. We're going to share some expectations of writing in Year 2 with you and share a few examples. And most importantly, which I'm sure is the reason most of you are here, we're going to explain how you can support your child's writing journey at home and give some practical solutions to what you can do to support at home. Sorry, I forgot to actually introduce myself. My name is Miss Tunny. I'm the head of Year 2 and 2J teacher. I've seen a lot of my parents on here already. I'm also joined by Mr. Kilsby, who's the teacher of 2B, and Mr. Ma, who's the teacher of 2G. So they'll be chipping in, and this is a collective presentation, so feel free to ask any of us questions. So if we start with an overview of writing in the Year 2 curriculum. So our writing curriculum follows the English National Curriculum. We build on the objectives already covered in Year 1. Again, I'm sure you're very familiar with these objectives. And we split our objectives up per term, so they're progressive as the year develops. I'm sure the objectives you've seen in Year Term 1 are the easier objectives. We build on those skills, but continue to revisit those objectives. I will show you now the objectives we cover for the year. Again, this will be sent out after, and I'm sure you've already seen on Learning Ladders, but these are the objectives we kind of aim to cover through the year. The yellow ones are the ones we've already covered. So if you go onto your child's Learning Ladders, you'll see that they have been taught. Your child might be developing, they might have met them, or they might have exceeded them. I just want to say, if your child hasn't met all of the Term 1 objectives, please do not worry. Writing is a skill. It will happen throughout the year, and children will build on the skills throughout the year. So some of the objectives, if your child hasn't met them, do not worry. And in blue, you will find the objectives we are focusing on in Term 2. So as you can see, we are now beginning to look at question marks, exclamation marks. We're focusing on the past tense. I don't know if you've noticed already on your child's seesaw, we've got some standalone SPAG lessons with some new characters that are really starting to help children develop their grammar and understanding of their past tense. We'll also be looking...
Sorry to interrupt. I think some of the parents can't see the presentation. Maybe if you stop share and reshare, maybe they might be able to see it.
Sorry about that, guys. I'll just share it again now. Can we see now? Mr. Cosby, can you see?
Yeah, I can see, and the people who were typing before said they can see it as well.
Perfect. Okay, this may be a bit small for you to read anyway, so don't worry, it will all come out after, and it is all on your child's learning ladders. So as I mentioned, these are the objectives split into each term. We've got term 1, term 2 and term 3. If your child has not met the term 1 or term 2 objectives, please do not worry. We revisit them. Children develop at different stages throughout the year, and all of these writing skills we will continue to develop. Just looking at the year 2 expectations, and it's important to note these are the expectations for the end of year 2. So if your child can't do any of these things now, do not worry. We're still quite early on in the year, and children develop at different rates. So by the end of year 2, people should be able to use capital letters, full stops, exclamation marks, question marks, commas and apostrophes. They should be able to use sentences with different forms, so statements, questions, exclamations and commands. And they should be able to use the past and present tense consistently and correctly. Here is an example of a year 2 child's piece of work. As you can see, they are doing all of those things. Their capital letters and full stops is quite consistent, which again is something we're really trying to work on in year 2 at the moment. Again, here are another few examples of what we expect children to be able to do at the end of year 2, and the kind of standard of writing we expect from children. As you'll probably notice as well, these pages are a lot longer than previous writing in year 1. So as part of the year 2 curriculum, we do kind of expect longer pieces of writing. In year 1, children may have wrote just like a bit of a story. We expect children to write at length towards the end of year 2. One thing we do kind of focus on at the moment is the year 2 common exception words. These are available on our year 2 curriculum overview, and again these will be put in the resource folder. These are the words that children just need to learn how to spell. We obviously teach children phonics, and we teach them to spell and sound out words phonetically. These are the words that do not fit that pattern. I would really suggest taking a few at a time. There are obviously a lot of words on there, and it's quite difficult for children to learn all of these words all at one time. So I would maybe take a colour or a number of words per week, and like we are doing in school, practice spelling those words, play some word games with your child, and the more they spell them, the more they will just learn them. Again, it's really important that these are the words children just learn how to spell. I would also like to say that when children are working at home, something we do in class is really try not to correct too many spellings. One of the biggest fears in children, and one of the reasons why children are a bit reluctant to write, is because they are scared of getting words spelt wrong. So if it's a word that you know children should know, so if you know they should know how to spell the word when, just maybe point it out, oh, you know how to spell that word. But if it's a word like home, for example, with the split O, children might not have looked at that sound in phonics yet, so do not worry. If you can kind of see how they've used their phonics to spell it out, praise them for that, praise them for using their phonics. when we're marking work in class, we don't really correct any more than 3 spellings. And again, we think carefully, we think about what sounds we know we've covered in phonics. You'll know that from your child's phonics seesaw page, and look at those words with your child. Give them lots of praise for using their phonics. I know it's really hard as an adult to kind of not correct every spelling, but that's one piece of advice I'd really try to stick to. We don't want them to be put off or worried to write. We really want to encourage them to sound out, use their spellings, and just enjoy writing.
So one of the things that we really try and encourage in year 2 and well through all the way through school is for the children to become more reflective and see how they can improve the writing themselves. So to do that, we have these year 2 writing symbols, and they're shown at the bottom of the slide there. These are all things that you'll see when children are doing a piece of writing, and they are just little prompts to help them to kind of check that they've done their writing as well as they can by themselves. So if I go through them left to right, the one on the left, say your sentence out loud, is really important. Quite often the children haven't formed the sentence fully in their head before they start writing. And in that case, whatever they write is unlikely to make sense because they haven't really thought of the sentence. So what we really try and encourage is for them to think of the sentence, say it out loud, and then write it down. And then before they go on to the next sentence, read that sentence back that they've just written to make sure it makes sense and it was what they had in their head. If they write all the way to the end and then go back and check, they might miss those mistakes. Whereas if they have that sentence fresh in their head and then they check it after, as soon as they finish reading it, that's their best chance for being able to correct it. So that's what that first one's for. The second one is just like Miss Tanya was talking about, that's using our phonics to help us spell something out. So using their Fred fingers, you might have heard them use that, especially further down the school. So if they're trying to spell a word that they don't know how to use, they try and segment out the sounds, separate them all out, and then have their best guess at writing it down. And like Miss Tanya said, if they don't get it right, that doesn't really matter, so long as they've had a really good go at it and they've kind of tried to break down those sounds and figure out how it could sound. Capital letters, making sure that we've capitalized the start of sentences, and proper nouns like names or places. Using a finger space between words is still really important. So a finger space is exactly what it sounds like. You write a word and then the child should put their finger down and write on the next side of the word. And that's really important just to make sure it's clear to read. Handwriting, I'm not sure if we're going to go into much more detail about this later, but I just want to mention on handwriting, the expectation is not that they are joining their letters. We just want their writing to be legible, something that they can really, that we can read clearly. That's the most important thing. If they are ready to join their letters, great. They can do that, and we might encourage them to do that later on in the year, but that's not an expectation. The main thing is that the letters are clear and easy to read, and that's the main thing we're looking for. And then, yeah, full stops, very important for marking the end of the sentence. So there are a number of other writing targets as well that will pop up in different targets, different pieces of work. It depends exactly what we're doing. So this week we've been writing a description, so we've been using adjectives, adverbs, and conjunctions quite a lot. When we were doing instructions, we were using time openers a lot. So we would never use all of those targets at once because it's far too many for the children to focus on. But the idea is once they've finished writing, or even as they're writing, they can go back and just check against the targets. Are they doing these things? And if they think, oh no, there's a adjectives task and I know I've not put that in yet, then they can make sure the next sentence they write, they put in an adjective. Sometimes you'll hear teachers or the children talk about up-leveling sentences. This is basically how to make a sentence better, which is slightly ironic because up-level isn't really a word. But anyway, it's how to make a sentence better. So the best way to make a sentence better is by starting with a really simple sentence. Quite often the children have quite a long and convoluted idea, and if they try and make that sentence better, that will be too confusing. So like at the beginning here, when you have Emma went to London, That's a very simple sentence, and that's a great place to start, because from here, the children can up-level that sentence and make it even better. So the first thing we're looking for is making the punctuation accurate. So capital letters on Emma, because it's the start of the sentence, and a name, and London, because it's a name, and then a full stop. Then putting in exciting adjectives, so like inquisitive to describe Emma and rainy to describe London. That will make it more interesting. And then as we're going through the year, we started introducing this recently, but it's something we can do more and more throughout the year, is using conjunctions to extend our sentences. So inquisitive Emma went to rainy London because she needed to go to the airport. Or inquisitive Emma went to rainy London and met up with a friend there. So using a conjunction to extend the sentence. What I usually recommend is no more than 2 clauses in a sentence. So if you're not familiar with clauses, you can kind of think of them as a simple sentence. There's a little bit more than that, but yeah, essentially just think of it as a simple sentence. We don't want too many more than those in a sentence. And sometimes the really enthusiastic writers like to have maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 clauses. So it could be inquisitive Emma went to rainy London because she wanted to see her friend, and then she saw her other friend, but they were really scared by the tiger that escaped from the zoo. However, they made it safely back home. So that is a technically accurate sentence using conjunctions, but there are too many clauses and it goes for too long. So try and just encourage just 2 clauses. When we're encouraging our sentences, encouraging up-leveling, then there's usually some really good word banks. So yeah, no, thanks, Miss Tony. The next slide was perfect. So, so word banks like this, you'll find them quite often in the piece of writing that they're doing on Seesaw, or also we have. Can you remind me, Miss Tony? Is it all these things there in the where are they found?
Yeah, so we'll send you a link after to our Google Drive, and we've got an array of resources ready to help you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Yeah, so they're all there. So should you need them, so if your child is wanting to do some writing at home, or if we're remote learning for any reason, then using that Google Drive will be a really good place to find all of those resources to up-level their sentences. I just want to quickly say, there's no expectation that all of the sentences have all of those things. It's great if they do, but not every one of those sentences that they write has to be an up-leveled sentence.
Thanks, Mr. Kilsby. So I'm going to go through how you can support your children at home and how to maybe adapt the work that they've done in school and adapt it to help you support them even further at home. So first thing, and probably the most important, is just keep it simple. There's absolutely no need to reinvent the wheel when you're trying to support your children at home with writing. I hear some great ideas from parents about all of these, trying to get them to write these amazing stories and amazing instructions. And actually the best thing for them is genuinely just keep it simple. Use the learning that they have done in school already. Have a look on Seesaw and see what lessons they have done that day or what they've been writing about that day, and actually just adapt what we've done, so that they already have that confidence that they can do it, but you can twist it to make it, you know, that little bit of a challenge for them. And this particularly works for bigger pieces of work, so more extended pieces of writing. So examples of that would be recently in school we have been writing instructions. So, and say for example we wrote an instruction on how to write a healthy sandwich in school. You could very easily get them to write instructions on how to make a vegetable stir fry or some other meal at home. Another example would be if you, for example, when we did Lost and Found, we were writing a story about a boy and an animal. Instead of getting them to write a story about the boy and the penguin, you could get them to write about a different character, a girl and a butterfly, and maybe change the destination as well. So what happens there is that they have the skills they need to write instructions. So like Mr. Kilsby said, they have their time openers, passive verbs, or imperative verbs. They have those skills ready to go, and they are just tweaking what they've done in school. So that will just gain their confidence more. And it really does not take a lot to put them on. To help them with this further, please do refer back to Seesaw, and you will see those checklists that Mr. Kilsby has referred to. So you will see the skills that they have been learning in school and that they're expected to use that piece of writing. While you're doing that, have a discussion with your child and ask them, what do each of these mean? So like what Mr. Kilsby did with GE, explaining what say your sentences out loud is, or explain what phonics are, what it means by that, get them to explain it back to you as well, to ensure they have that understanding, and even just to remind them of it as well. Alongside that, the most important thing is that they're enjoying doing their writing at home. Again, it's a great idea that you're giving that extra support for children at home, getting to that writing. But if they're not going to enjoy it, they're probably not going to engage fully with it either. And give them freedom to kind of choose what they're writing about. So even though I'm saying use what we've used in school, maybe ask them how they want to adapt it. So I know that when we wrote our stories of Lost and Found and The Boy and the Penguin, children were really excited to write about the girl and the tiger going to Africa. So they loved that, having that freedom to choose what they wanted to, or that freedom to choose what instruction they wanted to write about and show off to their friends. You know, children were making videos and reading their instructions out on how to do these things. And they really, really enjoyed it. Other ideas you could use to encourage your children are, you know, write about a recount about something they've done this week. Obviously, Expo being here at the moment, going to the beach, anything that they've done, and describing their favorite character from a book they've read. As we said, we're working on like adjectives and verbs and so on at the moment. So they're well able to access that. And even using things like pen pals. I know in Dubai, the postal service is not always the easiest to use, but actually getting them to write a letter to a family or friend who lives abroad or lives in a different part of Dubai, maybe taking a photo of it and sending it via WhatsApp or sending it via email, and getting someone to respond to them is a great way of getting them to write, because it's exciting for them to get response to it as well. And then finally, we've already mentioned this, there is this link on the slides that will be sent out to you that have over 100 different resources that you can access, different activities you can do with them. What I will say is don't try to do all 100 in the next week. Please do like one or two, and again, like I said, let your child pick what resources or what activities they want to do. You have a mixture of activities there, like your spelling, punctuation, and grammar, your SPAG ones, shorter writing sentences or shorter writing activities. But have a discussion with your child, let them choose which one they want to do. Because if you're trying to get them to do something that they don't want, as I said, they just won't engage, they won't put their full access into it. Also, when you're doing it, get them like a really nice, you know, writing book, like just have a book for writing. Don't be just giving them scraps of paper. So what they'll see is every time they look back, they'll see the writing they've done. They'll value the fact that it's there every time, and they'll see their improvement. I know that when we pull out like writing books and children see from the start of the year to the end of the year, they're amazed with the improvement that they've made themselves. They nearly laugh at how good they've become at their writing in the space of a year. So having something you can keep and constantly refer back to is really nice. And get them like nice pencils, nice sharpeners, nice rubbers. Keep it in a nice pencil case so that it's their writing equipment that they'll really, really enjoy. And the other thing as well that's really helpful is that every week the children get phonics, we'll answer questions at the end. I've seen those pop through. Phonics homework. There should be phonics homework going up on their Seesaw page every week. This should be on their phonics page now, not their main page. So if you look, for example, if you're in my phonics group, you will see that every Friday, every Friday, you will see a phonics work going up. That will be based on the phonics you've done in class that day. Same with Mr. Kilsby, same as any of the teachers or TAs who teach your child phonics. It will be on their Seesaw page. It'll be easy to access for them. As I'll just answer that question because I'm talking at the moment. Ms. Tunney saying that earlier on was with their spelling mistakes, don't try correct every single spelling mistake. Pick maybe 2 or 3. And the way I would do it is if they've made a really good attempt at sounding it out, so maybe they've just used the wrong sound in there, explain that mistake to them, explain that, yeah, it sounds like this, but this is how we actually spell it. And don't go with more than 2 or 3 spelling mistakes, and it could knock their confidence a little bit. So just 2 or 3 spelling mistakes, and spelling develops over time with reading and stuff as well. So please don't worry about it too much.
Thank you for that question. And that is the kind of a very common question. And as we've mentioned, we really want children to like writing, not be afraid of it. We want them to want to write. And when you tell a child, oh, that's wrong, we don't want them to be fearful of writing. So as Mr. Marr said, use their phonics page. You're up to date with what children and what children have covered in phonics. We've put some sound maps together in our resource file, so print them off, have them laminated for children to write with at home and use that as support at home. But really do praise them for having a go and using their phonics. If anyone else has any questions, would you like to just write the question in the chat and we'll answer it as a group? Your question might be something that could help somebody else out.
The question there about what if they like, so the green words that, you know, the high frequency words they know and they make mistakes with it. For me, it is just repetition with them, just constantly kind of, if it's a word that you know they should know at this stage, just reminding them, showing them the spelling again. Sometimes what happens with children is they just get it into their head that this is the way they're meant to spell it, and they make simple mistakes, they forget a letter in it. Just constant reminding of those green words is important.
The next question is quite a hard one to answer. How often should they practice writing? Because we do a lot of writing in school, and obviously the more they practice, the better they'll get. But if we try and force practice when they're not feeling keen or not enthusiastic about it, then it's going to be really hard to kind of make those kind of children that love writing. So I'm afraid there's no easy answer to that question. But I would say if you kind of giving them opportunities to write at home, definitely not every day, maybe once a week, just to see if they're keen, if they want to take it up. If you're really keen that they improve their writing and they don't seem that keen and you want to kind of force it a little bit, that's okay. Sometimes they'll need a bit of motivation, and maybe a reward or something could be great, but I wouldn't really try and do it much more than once or twice a week outside of school, because they need that break from the hard work that they'd be doing in school.
How to improve writing as your child uses different sizes of letters. Again, this is something that's so common at this age. Please do not worry if your child's using different letter sizes. It will come with practice. Practicing writing on the lines, praising their efforts. When they do some work that's on the lines and really neat, put it up on your wall, put it up on the fridge. Make sure they're feeling proud of it. We want the children to take pride in their work. And the handwriting, we're doing handwriting in school. If you have time, or if your child's into practicing their handwriting at home, do practice. Take it slowly, but all of this will come. Children are still very early on in their development in terms of writing, and with practice it will really develop.
Yeah, and the follow on two questions kind of link a little bit as well. So having the legibility of your son's writing it's very similar to Miss Tunney's. It's just about, sometimes if they're really enthusiastic, sometimes they just rush through their work, get as much writing down as possible. Just getting them to slow down a little bit, think about what they're writing. Like Mr. Killsey said in his part, get them to say their sentence out loud, explain to them what they're saying, so think about each step of the sentence before writing it. The really simple way of just getting them to slow down a little bit and think about their writing. And when they're going back and marking it, what we do in school is we use a purple pen. We use a different color pen. Yes, it might make it a little bit messier, but if they're going back and marking in a different color, you should still be able to read the original work. And then the part on top, then it's a little bit clearer to see. But it is sometimes about just slowing them down when they're doing their writing. You're not dampening their enthusiasm if you're asking them to slow down. I get what you're saying about keep correcting their work, but just get them to slow down a little bit. Think about the way they're writing their letters and so on. And with cursive writing, with cursive writing, we have said that there's no expectation about that at the moment.
And we won't move on to cursive writing until children are ready. We want them to have their letter formation and make sure their letters are the correct way around. We can read them. We won't move them on to cursive until we've got those basic foundations. I was also going to say purple pens are available on Amazon if you wanted to get yourself a purple pen. The children love doing it in school, so that might be something to help your child be more enthusiastic at home as well.
Yeah, we do dictation in school. It tends to come in our phonics lessons. So when we've taught a particular sound, then usually at the end we'll dictate some sentences for them to then practice keeping it in their heads and then writing it out so they can get the punctuation and the spelling right. Yeah, it's not something we do tons and tons of, but like I say, we do it in the phonics lessons to kind of practice those skills as well.
Okay, if anyone has any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're here ready to answer any questions you may have. Thank you to the people that have asked questions. Your questions were really useful and I'm sure have helped lots of other parents in this Zoom.